Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe Prabhupada 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 Shil Prabhupada ke Jam Vishpad Paramhamsa Pravajikacharya Sotar Sata Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shil Prabhupada ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaur Premanandi. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bali Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Namaste. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting here from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 29. Talks between Narada and King Prachinabarhi, text number 74. Evam Panchavidam Lingam Evam panchavidham lingam Trivrit Shodosha Vistritam Trivrit Sodasha Vistritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Iti Abadiyate Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidam Lingam Trivrit Sodhasha Vishtritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidam Lingam Trivrit Sodasha Vishtritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidam Lingam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidam Lingam Trivrit Sodasha Vishtritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidam Lingam Trivrit Shodasha Vishtritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam Panchavidham Lingam Trivrit Sodasha Vishtritam Esha Chaitanya Yukto Jiva Ityabadiyate Evam, thus, Panchavidam, the five sense objects, Lingam, the subtle body, Trivrit, influenced by the three modes, Sodasha, 16, Vishtritam, expanded, Esha, this, Chaitanya, with the living entity, Yukta, combined, Jivaha, the conditioned soul, Iti, thus, Abadiyate, is understood. The five sense objects, the five sense organs, the five knowledge-acquiring senses, and the mind are the 16 material expansions. These combine with the living entity and are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Thus, the existence of the conditioned soul is understood. Please repeat. The five sense objects, five sense organs, the five knowledge-acquiring senses, and the mind are the 16 material expansions. These combine with the living entity and are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Thus, the existence of the conditioned soul is understood. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:7, everybody, Mamaivam so jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha manahastastan indriyani prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses which include the mind. End quote. Here it's also explained that the living entity comes in contact with the 16 material elements and is influenced by the 3 modes of material nature. The living entity and this combination of elements combine to form what is called Jiva Bhuta, the conditioned soul that struggles hard within material nature. The total material existence is first agitated by the 3 modes of material nature, and these become the living conditions of the living entity. Thus the subtle and gross bodies develop, and the ingredients are earth, water, fire, air, sky, and so on. According to Sri Madhvacharya, when consciousness, the living force, is in the heart, is agitated by the 3 modes of material nature, then the subtle body of the living entity, consisting of the mind, the sense objects, the 5 senses that acquire knowledge, and the 5 senses for acting in the material condition, become possible. If we could pray, please. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam. Whoops, my bad. Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopatrubhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So getting back to Narada's discussion with Prachina Barhi, he's explaining how we remain Jiva Bhuta, conditioned souls within this material world, what the entangling web of material elements are. None of them have anything to do with us. We're pure consciousness, a spiritual spark of the Lord's superior energy. Mamaivam sa jiva loke sanatan. Jiva Bhuta sanatan. We're eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. But boy, did we make a wrong turn. Boy, did we make a bad decision thinking, wow, I wonder what it feels like to be respected and loved and served by everybody. And thus we find ourselves in this tar pit of the material existence. But all this samsara, all the unlimited births and deaths that we've gone through, in a moment it can all come to an end. In a moment. This is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. This is the mercy of the pure holy names descending from Goloka Vrindavan that he has brought to this world. There is no amount of sins that can be created that one pure holy name doesn't destroy immediately. The Jamil is a very good example given in the 6th canto. Calling out for his son. He wasn't even calling out for the Lord. Frightened by the gruesome, frightening Yamadutas who were coming to drag his subtle body and soul to hell, to be punished for misuse of his human life, born a Brahmin, and then degraded by association with an unchaste lady. Feeding fire, stoking the fire of all the desires that must have been latent there within the heart. But calling out, Narayan! Immediately, all forgiven. Even the Yamadutas didn't understand the potency of the holy names. They knew the scriptures of the Vedas. They knew Dharma. They knew the do's and do nots. They knew the list of sins. But they didn't realize that above their master Yamaraj is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that He and His holy names can immediately free anybody He chooses. Ajamil was such a lucky recipient. Vijay Prabhu mentioned Jai and Vijay. Jagai and Madai. I mean, what a Leela. Born in Brahmin families like Ajamil, great scholars. They studied the scriptures extensively, so they would know exactly what was wrong, what was sin, and so they would know how to perform it. They wanted to taste it all. What a mentality. In fact, it's stated after Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda forgave them completely, accepted them as their eternal servants into the family of the Prema Bhaktas that were relishing this Prema Nam Sankirtan. Chitragupta, the scribe, the secretary or accountant for Yamaraj, he fell off his asan. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't really keep up with the sins that they had committed, the voluminous list of sins they had committed. Like Vijay said, in Kali Yuga, in Malecha culture, we're so fallen we don't even realize to what extent there is sin in this world practically in every endeavor. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a purport by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at least 4 pages long, listing all the different papas, all the different types of sins according to categories. And they had done them all multiple times. Yamaraj was in such ecstasy when they were delivered by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he began chanting Hare Krishna, forgetting himself. He was so happy. Oh my gosh. There's great hope for the conditioned souls in Kali Yuga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a drunken man giving away the contents of his storehouse, giving away his most priceless jewel to anybody. No qualification whatsoever, Jagai and Madai. Here, take. It is simply up to the living entity to accept the gift. Chaitanya, Krishna, they don't force us back home, back to Godhead. If we want to rot in this miserable material existence, that's our choice. They're not happy when we make that choice, having made that choice for the longest time, but they love us. They facilitate our delusions, this horrible semblance of a low-class soap drama. I mean, how stupid is the living entity? If, when given the chance to hear of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says, use your intelligence. Is there anybody else that even comes close to being as merciful as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Vrindavan Das Thakur says that by the will of the Lord, any and every pure devotee of the Lord could easily deliver all living entities in this universe. He wanted to taste, he wanted to share, but he's not stingy. He said, there's so much to give away. There's so much work to be done. He said, please help me. Take up this responsibility. So first we have to appreciate what's being offered. Goloka Vrindavan, back to home, back to Godhead. When you hear about the qualities, the beauty, the relationships, the activities of Krishna and his beloved Vrajvasis, the realm where Krishna is fully pleased, far beyond the awe and reverence of most people's attempts at worshiping God in this world. Or in Vaikuntha, fully satisfied, fully captured and bewildered by the unalloyed, unpretentious love of the Vrajvasis. When we hear a devotee of Lord Chaitanya give this mercy in the form of transcendental kata, it should capture our hearts. If we want all this nightmare to go away, then we have to become absorbed in hearing and chanting this kata, these names, engaging in the service of the Lord. If we don't, when the human being gives up the process of hearing about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by man-made machines. One who is perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading personality of Godhead and thus becomes enthusiastic in glorifying the Lord. The beginning is hearing. It's the foundation that it builds the foundation of Shraddha, Adao Shraddha, Dridha Vishvasa, Shraddha. That yes, Krishna is real. My relationship with Krishna is eternal. It's real. Everything my spiritual master, everything Srila Prabhupada has shared with me, they practiced it. They showed us. It's real. But if you don't hear properly, hear perfectly, then that foundation of faith doesn't get built in a way that can support a lifelong endeavor. One life. Give one life in the service of Guru and Gauranga. People get distracted so easily by the highs and the lows of this world and as it says here, the objects of the senses, our knowledge-acquiring senses, our active senses, and oh brother, the Guru, the mind, never shuts off. As Srila Prabhupada says in one purport in the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj's section, said the mind is always thinking how to keep you and I within this material world. Man, with friends like that. But that mind can become our best friend if we will simply feel it with the transcendental sound vibration of Gaura's names, Gaura's kata, Gaura's teachings. Engage in the service of Guru and Gauranga. That's the process. You want to develop a taste. Get busy hearing, chanting, and serving the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Everything's perfect. I mean, how devotees can even live in the ashram and not take full advantage of the perfect process that actually transforms into raga bhakti a taste, a spontaneous attraction. Once you have that spontaneous attraction, there's no question of not wanting to hear continuously about the Lord and His devotees. There's no question of becoming tired about talking about Krishna. We see Srila Prabhupada, even when sick, very sick. The pastime is there, Harisari talks about in Vrindavan, and he had a high fever. This wasn't on his deathbed, this was earlier. Had a very high fever, summertime, but some MP came, some official who might be able to engage in Lord Chaitanya's movement. Prabhupada's sick as a dog, but he steadied himself, set up on it, and then he asked him in and then treated him like a perfect gentleman, engaged him so wonderfully, capturing his heart with his kindness, with his manners, with his concern and care. And after an hour or so, made sure he got nice, sumptuous prasadam. And then he left with an inspired heart to help the devotees. And then Srila Prabhupada collapsed. Or being out on tour and so many engagements, speaking engagements, a couple of engagements a day, and then, if you want, there's an opportunity to go to one radio show. Well, how big is the audience? Big audience. How many? 20 million. We're talking about the Bay Area, right? Mexico City. That's just as good. 20 minutes. Oh, then let's go. But it's late. You haven't eaten. No problem. We can always sleep and eat later. One whose heart has been cleansed, as Balaram was quoting the Gundicha Marjana Leela. One whose heart has been thoroughly cleansed, completely cleansed. For him, there's no obstruction. Nothing can keep him from throwing himself into the service of the glorification of the Lord to help the conditioned souls. And if there's nobody to listen, he'll just continue with the Krishna Katha and the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the confines of his four walls. It's not about getting the pleasure of recognition. It's not about pleasing others. It's about pleasing Guru and Gauranga. If they're pleased, then the impossible becomes possible. And materially speaking, it looks impossible. I was listening to Vaisheshika Prabhu last night with his Sangha before listening to Maharaj's class, watched their Abhishek, etc. And he did the same thing. Great souls think alike. He had the Chaitanya Charitamrita, like Maharaj. I heard he distributed 3 sets. Vaisheshika, so empowered. So empowered. Why? Because he's filled his ears and his heart with the message and the nectar from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, Vakya, Chitete, Kariya, Aikya. And has served that mission. Not simply here and kick back, but has thrown his life into the service, taking up responsibility. He sponsored, I kind of lost count, there was over 200 sets of CCs distributed last night in his Gaur Purnima discussion. Hare Krishna. Nothing can stop the sincere desire of one who wants to fully engage in selfless service to Guru and Gauranga. Nothing. We need to associate. We need to hear from and serve such exalted Vaishnavas. They are the personification of what we're hearing about. Lord Chaitanya appeared last night at the full moon's rising. The bliss throughout the universe was unlimited. The Lord is always blissful, and His servants are always blissful. But by the mercy of the Lord in appearing in this world, so auspicious, that everyone became happy. Everyone. And everyone chanted Hare Krishna on the pretext of an eclipse. Even the Muslims. And people were not devotionally inclined in Navadvip. Talk about a metropolis. Millions and millions of people, and hardly any of them talked about bhakti. No one was interested, but they all were chanting Hare Krishna and feeling happy doing so. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya came to give us the holy names. So auspicious. And all the demigods and demigoddesses taking human form, and all the Brahmins. Oh, Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi have had a child. Let's go see. So many coming, bearing gifts. Jagannath Mishra being a Brahmin. You have kind of two perspectives in CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. Chaitanya Charitamrita emphasizes God Himself was in the ocean of the womb of Mother Sachi, appearing like the full moon. And because of that, Lord being within, so many people, they were all giving gifts and offering. You know, he was not worried about paying the bills, maintaining body and soul together. Vrindavan Das Thakur takes a little different slant. He said Jagannath Mishra was basically a poor Brahmin, and whatever he give, whatever you get, he would give. In fact, it's stated that when we know that Nilambara Chakravarti did the horoscope for Vishrambar when he appeared, Vishrambar, the maintainer of the universe, He who nourishes the universe, not the body or mind, but the soul with Krishna praying. When Vishvambara appeared, Nilambara Chakravarti did the chart and he couldn't believe this is a perfect chart. And Jagannath and Sachi were so happy. And there's a slight different take on it. Said then there was another Brahmin who then elaborated on all the different I'm not so good at astrological terms, but the amsas, the navamsa, there's different ways in which you look at the planets in the houses and in the nakshatras and the signs and all this, and he was elaborating, glorifying the Lord to no extent. I mean, greatly, with no limit. And it stated that Jagannath Mishra, being a poor Brahmin, he said, I have nothing to give you. So he simply fell down at the Brahmin's feet, grasping them and crying. And because the Brahmin knew this is God, only God could have this chart. Only God could have this influence. Everybody was floating in ecstasy, chanting, praying, giving gifts. So excited about the Lord's appearance. Then he fell down at Jagannath's feet, grabbing them and crying. Two kinds of tears. Unhappy and happy. Tears flow like streams of the Ganges, currents of the Ganges, when one is tasting, experiencing even a glimmer of the love of the Lord. Even in the presence of a Mahabhagavad and you get shadow symptoms, you can cry like a baby. There's nothing in this world that compares to the priceless gift that Lord Chaitanya and the Parampara are offering us. And we have to remain fixed, hearing, repeating, remembering, and serving the mission. Grab onto the rope of the kata and the service, and don't let go. Don't let go. And don't take, how would you say, don't be disheartened. Prabhupada never said it'd be easy. We're Jiva Bhuta. We've been conditioned since time immemorial. But do you have faith? Do you have confidence that it's true? You follow my instructions, at the end of this one life you can go back to Godhead. Do you believe it? If we do, then that's what we do. We give our life to the mission of Guru and Gauranga. And we take note. There are 4 kinds of anarthas that have to be cleansed from the heart. Desire for material sense gratification and liberation. Those are both types of material desires. Weakness of heart. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada talks about the weakness of heart, of identifying with the body and wanting to enjoy that which comes in contact with the body. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj emphasizes a particular aspect of the dust that was swept out, cleansed completely in the second cleaning of the Gundicha temple. And he talks about the envy and the duplicity. He said, as long as a devotee is duplicitous, basically hedging our bets, not having the strong faith that this is all I want in life is the Lord's service. As long as that is there, then there will be envy of others. There will be the desire for the profit, distinction, and adoration. And we need to be aware if this is lurking in our heart, in our mind. Aparads is the 3rd type of anartha. You have offenses to the name, offenses to the deities, offenses to the devotees, offenses to the spiritual master, offenses to the holy dhams. If you follow the process given by Guru and the parampara, you don't have to worry about the offenses. You'll be enlightened. You'll be shown what is it that is putting you in the circumstance whereby you create or commit offenses. Guru and the Lord of the heart want to dispel all of this ignorance. And that's the 4th anartha, misconceptions of the truth. Illusion in regards to some aspect of the teachings of the Lord and the parampara. And it's so easy to do in actuality, looking for excuses. We may not codify it. We may not openly speak about it in certain groups. But if we maintain these attachments, despite hearing so many instructions about these things, then pure Krishna consciousness does not reawaken within the heart. Krishna does not manifest himself within the heart. One does not become empowered to change the hearts and lives of others. There's no greater taste, no greater pleasure than helping others become Krishna conscious. Anyone who has even experienced it in the slightest degree knows it's a fact. And as I said, Guru and Gauranga want us to take responsibility. They want us to take up the mission. They want us to be strict with ourselves and merciful with others. Doesn't matter what goes on in the daytime soap opera of this world or even our institution. Krishna is ultimately in charge, and we should be concerned about reawakening our selfless, unalloyed service to Him and His devotees, becoming an instrument in their hand to share Krishna consciousness. If one develops that desire, then everything will come to light. If one is sincere, that's all it really takes, is sincerity of purpose. And then seriously following. And by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, that's not difficult. There's no obstacle. Material energy shrinks down. The ocean of material existence shrinks to a tiny little calf's hoof print of water. We just have to do it. As the old commercial says, just do it. Stay absorbed. Practice, practice, practice. Live to be corrected. Live to be put on the proper course. Like when the airplane's flying over the ocean, that computer's constantly readjusting its course. Constantly. So with the help of the Vaishnavas and Guru and Shastra, we need to be encouraged to stay on course so we can relish this nectar of the festival of Jagannath Mishra and all the wonderful childhood pastimes that the eternal Lord displayed for His pleasure and the pleasure of the devotees. I think I'll stop early today. Are there any questions or comments, contributions in this regard?
Maybe you could comment on this idea of serving the holy Dham. Of course, we have New Govardhan Dham here, but also we have Mayapur Dham and Vrindavan Dham, and maybe you could comment on this idea of service specifically. You could say to like Mayapur Dham or Vrindavan Dham, and how we could try to serve those places while not, residing there on some level,
That's a nice question. Thank you, Balaram. Some of the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, they never went to Vrindavan. As Srila Prabhupada said, you don't get to the holy Dham of the Lord by buying an airplane ticket and flying there. Or like in the Nectar of Instruction when it talks about, residing on the banks of Radha Kund and absorbing yourself in the recollection, meditation on the eightfold, and the eight, do you say fold? Not eightfold. In the eight, how do you say that? 8 sections of the day and night of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But if all this dross, the objects, the senses, the mind, if all this isn't cleared away, you're not at Radha Kund, you're not in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is not of this world. Mayapur is Vrindavan and is not of this world. So to hear about it, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave 3 stages: Gaura Dham, Gaura Nam, and Gaura Kam. By serving the Dham, one's senses become purified, one's consciousness becomes purified, so that one can chant purely the names of Krishna, the names of Gauranga. And when one chants purely the holy names of the Lord, then the Lord reveals Himself and one will be allowed to engage one-on-one, face-to-face with the Lord. Gaura Kama. All your heart's desires will be fulfilled. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna will never disappoint one. So, to hear about these things from someone who is dear to the Dham, who actually is a resident of the Dham. Srila Prabhupada has given us all this. Many of his followers have become Dhamvasis. Their hearts are attached to the dham because it's worshipable being the home of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada said every acharya has made some contribution to the development of the dham. He is, through his servants, establishing the TOVP. I would say, while they're giving away free money from this government, even for brahmacharis, put some of that money aside and give so you can have a brick made, or even just a tiny little something where you contributed. For all the book distributors distributing the books, the glories of Krishna and his dham, his nam, his form, his qualities, his pastimes are being spread throughout. That's dham seva also. When you get to go, the main thing in the dham is to hear, and chant. And do any service you can. All service that you can. But it's about purified consciousness so that you can get the mercy of the dham. Speaking of Navadvip, the 9 islands are the foundation of the 9 principal limbs of bhakti. And of all of them, Krishnakya, bhakti, constant chanting, hearing and chanting the names of Krishna, so important, whether in the practice stage or in the perfect stage. So service to the dham, read about the leelas, become attached to the dham. When you go there and it becomes real, it manifests before your eyes. Oh my gosh, Lord Chaitanya appeared here. Srivas Thakur's kirtans were here. Chandrasekhar's play. Lord Chaitanya's the mother of the universe was here. All these wonderful pastimes when they become, or when you see the samadhis and bhajan kutirs of Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, they become real. You have the opportunity to communicate to them. And they will hear and answer if you are so desirous. Develop the relationship. It's a matter of desire and association. So look forward to the day when the Lord allows you to go to the dham. And then why do we go? Simply to surrender and to get service in the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And why do we do that? Because that's the ticket back to Krishna's dham, Goloka Vrindavan. Worship of Gauranga is worship of Radha and Krishna. It's the only way we'll be allowed into the innermost recesses of Goloka Vrindavan, where Rupa Manjari serves Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna. These are such, we have no idea. So, everything we do can be thought of in relationship to that. Why you do the puja? Why do you do the classes? Why do you clean the temple? It's all about preaching. If you're engaged in preaching, then this is the dham. If there is life, then the deities reciprocate. The spiritual master blesses. Become alive. Take it for the ecstatic, dynamic life that it is in service to Guru, Vaishnavas, and the conditioned souls. Does that have some relevance? Would you like to say something on your own, your thoughts?
Prabhu, any pastimes of Jagannath Mishra or anything more that you can share?
Yeah, when his son, he had 8 daughters that all were either stillborn or miscarriage or something. They all died. And then finally they had a son, Vishwarup, who's an expansion of Balaram or Sankarshan, expansion of Nityananda. And they were so happy. Most people, when they get happy, they kind of kick back and enjoy the happiness. But Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra, they doubled down in their worship and service to the Lord. So grateful to have been given a son. And they were so entranced by him. He was the Lord himself. But always absorbed in hearing and chanting, associating with Advaita Acharya, etc. When he got word that the parents wanted to hitch him up and arrange a marriage for him, he left without telling anybody. And of course it broke their hearts. Their neighbors and friends tried consoling Jagannath and Sachi. You're so very fortunate. He's gone to take sannyas. He'll deliver you and all your forefathers and your descendants. You're so very fortunate. But Jagannath Mishra thought, no. He was listening to the Bhakti Shastras. He was taking this transcendental knowledge and applying it so seriously. Nimai, you can't go to school anymore. I see where this is going. You'll learn your ABCs, you'll learn your academics, you'll learn the Bhakti Shastras associating with the Vaishnavas, and then you'll take sannyas and leave me. But Lord Chaitanya, when Vishwarup left, he consoled his father and mother. He said, I'm here. I'll take care of you. Don't worry. That's the nature of the Lord. He doesn't want his devotees unhappy. Transcendental knowledge is the solace for any and all miseries of life. So it's a wonderful pastime. For some time he got to just be a naughty boy, and Jagannath Mishra didn't care. He could do all nonsense. He was a hooligan, causing so much trouble in the neighborhood. And he wanted to go to school. And finally Mother Sachi had to convince her husband, please, just let him go. Whatever is destined to be will take place by the arrangement of the Lord. Let our boy go. He wants to go to school. So he did, but very shortly thereafter, due to the separation of Vishwarup, Jagannath Mishra left this world. And then it was Nimai and Mother Sachi. And shortly thereafter he married Lakshmi Priya also. But so many pastimes, but that's just one. Jagannath Mishra, he has all the good qualities of Kashyapa, Dasarath, Vasudeva, Nanda Maharaj. He's the eternal father of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Mother Sachi is his eternal mother. Worshipable. Anything else? Please.
Now in Krishna Leela, there isn't the Nanda Maharaj festival after Krishna Leela, but why is there a Jagannath festival?
No, there's Nandotsava. Lord Srila Prabhupada's born on Nandotsava.
So after Krishna's... Oh,
after
really?
he appears at midnight,
Yeah?
then the festivities continue on in the next day.
And then it's Nandotsava.
Huh?
Then it's Nandotsava the next day.
Yeah.
So similarly, there's Jagannath. Oh,
Easter
interesting.
festival.
Oh,
That's
okay.
today. I mean, strictly speaking, in India they do like this. Lord Chaitanya is the descent of the Lord, the appearance of the Lord, you fast. At least you fast from grains and beans. And then the next day, you can have feast. I mean, they often have feast. In Mayapur, they have a feast on Gaura Purnima in the evening, but it's a Kadashi. But you get to break fast. I mean, it's such a rough life. You know, the next day they have a big feast for Jagannath Mishra. And then it's all the grains. And you have to be empowered. If you really go gung-ho on the first evening feast, I mean, is Mukunda all right? Is he, what's his? I'm glad it's not from, I've suffered so many years that Mongol Arctic, boy, having observed Gaur Purnima Ekadashi feast. But anyway, yeah, then the next day they have a feast. And, the continuation of the gifts and the giving and the receiving of gifts, it goes on, and everybody is so happy. Everybody's, what an understatement, is so happy. So that's today. Prabhus, thank you for your association. Thank you for tolerating me. Talk about a dirty heart, and still you don't kick me away. I'm so very grateful. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.